I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zias Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. I'm Mark Seifter. Hello
everybody,
and welcome
to a special April Fool's Day episode
of Arcane Mark. This is not a joke. This is not a prank. This is on April Fool's Day, but there really is a free book to play a demigod.
in keeping with the Battlezoo tradition of releasing free April Fool's Day products.
That's right. So you can play a demigod yourself. You can go to Battlezoo.com, and when you do, there's a free demigod in Battlezoo.com. You can also check in the chat. We will put the link in the chat. It is just Battlezoo.com/products/free something. It got cut off there. Product/free-Battlezoo-Ancestries-Demigods PDF, or you can just click on the link.
Absolutely. So, where did you get the idea from to do a demigod?
So basically, at one point after we'd done fusions, Steven was like, well, the only way we can go up from here is if we just did one where you could be a god. I was like, okay. And then a while later, he had forgotten that he said that. And I was like, yeah, we got demigods. He's like, what were we going to do? I was like, well, you said just a god. So I have all this stuff ready for demigods. He's like, okay, let's see. Let's see what that's going to be.
And you had several folks over the past year also like joking and talking about that.
Yes, well, 'cause it was recently. Someone sent a message to Steven saying you should do something where you can play God. And about 2 months ago, someone on Reddit was like, well, at least there's not a demigod ancestry, so you can't get your welcome stuck in my head.
And you were actively working on the demigod ancestry when you got that message on Reddit.
That's true. It was very funny.
Yes.
That's why I posted on Reddit with a screen cap of that sort of response and my statement in the response, and then well, that's awkward, and then the cover for Battlezoo Ancestries Demigods.
So I guess a core question with a lot of these concepts that are based on beings that are really powerful traditionally is, how do you get to be a demigod who is also balanced to play at the table with like humans and elves and dwarves and stuff like that?
So that is a very good question. And the answer is very carefully. So when it comes to demigods, there's the demigod ancestry, which is part of what's in the free April Fool's product. And that's just, it's an ancestry where you are this fragment of divinity, and you've got whatever your ancestry boosts are going to be. It has a very unique and ability boost of charisma free with a fatal flaw that you also get to choose. Which no other ancestry has. Although based on your heritage, you will have certain restrictions on your fatal flaw. You either have the fatal flaw of hesitation, where the mortal and divine parts of you kind of pull at one side or another, and that causes you to have a flaw in dexterity. The fatal flaw of hubris, where you are more than a mere mortal, and so therefore you don't always make the wisest decisions. And the fatal flaw of vulnerability, where you have the limitless potential of the immortal, but your mortality mixes in and leaves this one vulnerability that could kill you, and it gives you your flaw's constitution. And so, depending on your heritages, you can pick between 1, 2, sometimes all 3 of those as your potential option for your fatal flaw. Other than that, a lot of the things are just sort of in the heritages and feats. So you can either be a genius demigod, where you become trained in a skill that is based on intelligence, and you're such a genius that you basically can just use assurance results if they would have been a success on recall knowledge, and if they would be a failure, the GM rolls your secret check as normal. Which is kind of useful. And then your
there's a protection against.
It gets like assurancing into the failure.
Yeah.
Fatal Flaw can be any of them. The Savior Demigod is where you kind of are just like very sort of benevolent and compassionate, and you wind up healing more with battle medicine and treat wounds, and you gain battle medicine and medicine, and your Fatal Flaw can also be any of the three. Seer Demigod is just kind of like the wise person that you go up to on the mountain who gives you advice of what to do. And so it also has dark vision because it can see even when there's no light.
I see. So the choices of flaw are hesitation or vulnerability. So you're not going to have hubris and be unwise.
You're not going to have hubris if you're like the wise seer who lives on the mountain and is giving people good advice. That's just not an option for you. Whereas with trickery, being the trickster deity means that you can either be like the deceptive trickster with deception and charming liar and lie to me, or the thievery with dirty trick and pickpocket.
Oh, but you're not going to be hesitating if you're the trickster.
Yes. Tricksters never hesitate. They always go forward.
Right,
but you can have hubris or vulnerability. Whereas the warrior demigod also doesn't hesitate into battle, and they have more hit points, and they get favored weapon, familiarity, feat, or toughness.
So these are all based on archetypes, not like archetypes as the mechanic, but sort of story archetypes of common like divine personalities or portfolios. Then,
basically yes. Because you're going to wind up choosing things like domains as well. We'll get into that. Now, there's regular ancestry feats that are in here. There's also a couple more abilities that the ancestry has.
So if you're a demigod, can you, like, worship another god?
Yes. So, as a demigod, you cannot worship yourself as a cleric. Because of the fact that you are the demigod, you have the divine power. That is, a cleric has to be someone else. You could worship an even more powerful deity as a cleric, kind of like Iomade worshipped Aridin, but was also a lesser deity before she became a greater deity in Pathfinder lore. You can do that. But yet, yes, as a demigod. You have two other abilities, part mortal, where you kind of are a mortal ancestry, and you get like the languages based on that ancestry, but you aren't quite a member of that ancestry unless you take the mortal roots feat, because you're a demigod. And then quasi-divine, which gives you a cantrip from the divine spell list that you can then sort of choose each day and then switch around. And it's based on your choice of intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. And you also start gaining the ability to grant spells to your worshippers that is in a religion section. So then there's a bunch of feats, and some of them depend on like your favorite weapon.
So you may not like get spells as a cleric from worshiping yourself, but you just kind of innately have divine magic.
Yes, there's a ton of ways to do that. You can get domain spells from your ancestry feats. You can get the Orisons of Power, which give you more divine cantrips. You can get divine initiate spells, which give you more spells. And when you get the divine initiate spell as a 5th level ancestry feat, gives you a first rank spell that you can cast once per day as a divine innate spell, and your clerics can prepare it as a divine spell, even if it's not on the divine spell list.
So, seeing the feat, I can go the distance in here. It kind of makes me think about how with the first Battlezoo April Fools with the dungeon, it was like everything was a reference to various isekais and things like that. Do you have a lot of references in here to different famous demigods from history and pop culture?
There's mentions of them, like in the section on the religion at the end. There's even examples of demigods who might fall into certain virtues. So yes, I can go the distances in there. There's a You're Welcome feat. The Divine Initiate spell feat also says you can pick whatever first rank spell you want. You can pick Heal if you really want to get Heal as your spell. It doesn't have to be on the divine list. But it even says, most demigods choose a spell that isn't on the divine list because it helps their clerics more to do so. But you could choose a spell from the divine list if you prefer, despite your clerics grumbling. And then the later feat, which is Divine Adept spell says the same thing. Most demigods choose a spell that isn't on a divine list because it helps their clerics more. You can choose a spell from the divine list if you prefer, despite your cleric's glares.
Yes.
And then there's Divine Emissary spell, which is, again...
despite your cleric's protest.
Despite your cleric's protest.
Yeah.
And then Divine Hierophant spell, which says, again, you could do that
despite
your cleric's objections.
Yes. I guess they're high enough level at that point that they'll just flat out object.
Yeah, the ones who were able to cast 7th rank spells are going to be like, I object to this. Why are you picking ones that are in the divine list? I already know those. This isn't helping me at all.
Yes.
So, those are kind of in there. There's, like, the ability to talk to your sacred animal. You can, like, gain familiarity with your favored weapon. All sorts of things that are sort of based on deity-related situations. There's, like, deific presence where just your godliness makes it so that you can make impressions on people or intimidate them more easily. I can go the distance where you just keep going because you have a deity-like stamina. Auspicious animal where you can sort of send an animal to go give an omen. It's your sacred animal. You set it off, and it goes to give an omen like an animal messenger to other people.
So could you have a party where, like, one player is a demigod and another person is, like, a cleric of that other PC?
In fact, it can be useful because you can do some things that help your clerics, especially with the religion boons, which are at the end. When you were saying, can it be balanced? The religion boons are a completely different thing that are not part of the ancestry feats, but if your group is doing free archetype and the demigod has those instead of a free archetype, it would be balanced. Also, it's a reward for building your religion and doing quests to raise your deific virtues, so the GM could consider giving it on top of free archetype, like the Academia subsystem in Strength of Thousands, if you want. So, let's see. There's Demigod's Hunch, which lets you give an augury to yourself. You can get more domain spells.
Divine Flight.
Yes, because
really
you can
like
fly,
that,
maybe even if you're not like a winged deity with like gravity control, whatever you're the deity of. Demigod's Talent gives you champion dedication as a champion of yourself, or a dedication to an archetype matching your favorite weapon, for instance, Archer for a bow favored weapon. Special, with the GM's permission, you can choose Exemplar dedication with this feat using your own Divine Spark. In that case, the feat is rare. It's a very thematic choice, but the GM might not want to allow Exemplar dedication without changes because it gives huge amounts of damage. That you can change into your sacred animal. There's the You're Welcome feat. Where basically it takes you from trained to expert in diplomacy, and when you use your divine power to like do the things that people want or need, or it's helping them out, you can just immediately use diplomacy to impress a ton of people. I mean, what can I say? You can larger than life, because some deities or demigods just literally were just bigger than other people in certain religions. There's the Keeper of Prayers. Anytime one of your worshippers prays to you with a request, you get a general sense of what they asked for. It's not exact words. You can't have a spy network of your people praying to you. It has to be a heartfelt prayer that they actually want to gain their needs and desires. Once per 10 minutes, you could use a 3-action activity with the concentrate and mental traits to send a message of up to 25 words to a worshiper in response to one of these prayers that they made within the last 10 minutes. Regardless of their location, even if they aren't on the same planet or plane.
There you go.
So it's like, I need guidance. I really need to know whether or not I should use the, whether I should buy an apple or an orange at the store. It's like... Buy an orange, and please stop asking. That's less than 25 words. Limited immortality, where you kind of vanish and reappear next to one of your followers, as long as you still have followers who've never been used to bring you back. I think it's also once per month, so it's not like you can do it constantly.
Respawn, yeah.
Yep. And... then there's the religion section. So that is the thing I kept referring to. Okay, the religion section. So in the religion section, you basically are building up your religion. It is very akin to sort of the leadership subsystem in GM Core and the Game Master Guide. So you basically build up your religion. As you get more people and level up your religion, you can also level up your demigod virtues. Compassion, courage, innovation, sagacity, and trickery. And as you build up those, there's examples
So do
for
you
each
choose,
one.
like, I want to focus on one of these?
So it's based on what your deeds are. So you might have side quests that the GM gives you, like, in between your missions, or if your whole campaign is about demigods, then, like, they can be your main missions, where you have an opportunity to earn 1 or possibly 2 points in the virtue if you do really well. It's also theoretically possible to botch and be so terrible at the virtue that you lose a point, but it suggests in there that this is extremely rare, because the kind of demigod who would even remotely be possible of losing a point probably just never even had that virtue to begin with. Like, the kind of person would be so cowardly that they would just run away and lose a point of
Probably
courage.
wouldn't be investing
Probably
in
wouldn't
courage
have
in the first
gotten
place.
courage at all, because they already would have been at least, like, lukewarmly cowardly up until that point. So there are examples of, like, earth religions, associated skills for the virtue, and associated domains that you might pick if, like, that is your virtue. So, like, for example, in the virtue of innovation, where, you know, the demigod who is the one who, like, invents things. Because a lot of earth religions say that things were invented by a deity. For instance, like, Ilmarinen in the Kalevala, crafting the Dome of the Sky and forging the magic Sampo. And also just, like, so many deities across the world supposedly invented writing. Thoth, Hermes, and Agba are three of them, but that's only a few of many deities who said, like, yeah, we invented writing. Or at least people said they did. The associated skills there would be Arcana, Crafting, Occultism, and Society, and associated domains, Creation, Fire, Knowledge, Magic, Truth, Undeath, and Wealth. And so you don't have to pick those domains if you're good at those virtues.
But it's just sort of an inspiration of some that would be thematically tied to that idea.
And those skills are suggested for the kinds of skills someone might need to do the kinds of challenges that would raise the virtues, but not always. So it's basically just like a suggested framework that you can use to make your religion more important in the campaign. There's also a side section about if you have no religion, if you want to just have it in the background where you just say, okay, sure, we're not going to really pay attention to it. We'll just assume that it's kind of going up relatively well. Or the full religion rules.
Where you have, like, a party of demigods who are all going.
Potentially. Or you use it instead of free archetype for your one person. And so you get these boons. The initial boons you usually would want to give even if you're not using the main religion rules, just because the initial boons are just to select the kind of things that a deity would have. Then you're going to need them for your ancestry feats.
I see. So, like, choose a favorite weapon so that would be the weapon you take with your feat. Choose a sacred animal so that'll be sacred animal you can get with the feats, etc.
Yeah, choose a divine skill. Choose 2 divine attributes. Choose your clergy's sanctification. Choose whether your worshippers can have a font of heal, harm, or either. Choose your religious symbol. Choose your sacred colors. Choose your edicts and anathemas. And you also don't need to choose a title, but your worshippers might choose one for you, whether you like it or not. If you don't, and you might
not like it, so you probably should pick one.
That's right.
That makes sense.
And you don't get any power-ups from that first level thing. It just is like, these are the basics. And then at second level and every even level thereafter, you get a boon. And those boons can be things like first domain. Now,
I see. Some of them have prerequisites of you have to have a certain level in a particular virtue.
Like Trickster's Guise requires Trickery 2. Or Be Not Afraid requires Courage 4. And Divine Sense is Sagacity 4. Meanwhile, another one for what if one of your people worships you is the basic demigod spellcasting. So there's a whole set of demigod spellcasting. It's kind of like regular spellcasting feats, like wizard multiclass or whatever, or cleric multiclass more like. But the main thing is that it comes with something called Answer Prayer, which is a reaction when one of your worshippers basically is going to pray to you for one of the spells you have from your ancestry feats or your boons. And at that point, as you reaction, you're like, I will answer your prayer. And then they cast the spell with their actions, but it uses up your
I see.
spell.
So you're using your reaction to give them the ability to use your spell.
Yes.
Yeah.
They pray that they want to do it, and they do it. They have to be high enough level that they would be able to cast that spell on their own, and they must be an autonomous creature, not a minion or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can't be like, yeah, my dog worships me.
And my dog's gonna use their actions.
It's a basic dog. It's not even an animal companion, but it's gonna cast all these spells for me.
How could it even qualify to cast the spells anyway? But
I awakened it with the awakened animal ritual. So yeah, you can get more domains. There's special things based on which type you are. You can have the arch tricksters guys. You can imagine a new day where you just kind of just gain a class feat for the class that you qualify for, that you just change up every day. There's a reverent spell where you can spend an action as a spell shape to basically use one of your worshippers as the origin point. You're still casting it.
oh, cool.
It just comes out of your worshipper. So it's like, oh, I shoot a lightning bolt, but my worshipper, it comes in a line from my worshipper. There's alternate domains for if you have more than the normal number of domains.
Yeah, because some deities
do.
That's how you can do it.
If you had to pay for 1 feat for your first domain, 1 feat for your second domain. There's a third feat that gives you the third and fourth domain at the same time. And then the alternate domains, a fourth feat that gives you the fifth and sixth domains at the same time.
Gotcha,
so you actually get very good returns on the number of focus spells if you just keep taking
But
these.
that's because they're all competing with the same resource at that point. So,
Correct.
Like the versatility.
They don't give you more focus points. They're competing, and they probably weren't your first and second choices because you already
But
picked
if you
those.
really want to be focused on, if you really want to have a broad spectrum, then you can totally do that.
That's right. You can also start picking up advanced domains. You can get the first advanced domain. You can get the second advanced domain. And...
what's Rebuke Anathema?
Oh, Rebuke Anathema is a reaction when somebody does something that's anathema to you and you try to deal mental damage to them, but if they critically succeed and don't go unpunished doing an anathema, you take mental damage. So with the advanced domains, you get one advanced domain with the first feat, and the second feat gives you the second one, but then there's a third feat that gives you all of the rest, which means you could potentially get 4 focus spells from that third feat, but in order to take that third feat...
You would have to have taken...
You would have to have taken... boon. These are boons, not feats. But in order to have taken that boon, you would literally need to have taken 6 other boons. Yes. And that means that you couldn't have done it at the level where it was first offered if you wanted to get all 4 of the focus spells from it. You would need to wait until level 14 to do that. And that means you're giving up on things like Boon of Flight or deific spells, where you get all of those spell ancestry feats at the same time.
Sweet.
Then there's boons like Blessing of Divinity, where you're surrounded by Bless or Bane, a Divine Realm, where you create
you should totally be able to get a Divine Realm.
You create a Divine Realm that you could just go to and be like, this is my Divine Realm! Normally, other people can get in, but they might be able to trespass using interplanar teleport or things like that. Summon Herald, where you can...
you get a Herald too.
You can do an incarnate spell once per day to call in your herald, depending on whether your highest virtue is courage, compassion, innovation, sagacity, or trickery. It will have a different effect. Trickster's Guile is a reaction to the breakout of mental effects because you're very sneaky. There's Deity's Demand, where once per minute you can contact your worshippers with sending as a divine innate spell. Once per hour you can instead send them a telepathic demand.
And get your minions to do things for you.
Do things. There's Divine Foresight, where you gain Foresight just sort of automatically the first time that the person you chose rolls initiative or defends against a hostile creature or other danger. Basically, the first time it would be relevant. It just sort of pops up each day. There's Grant Miracle at level 20, where one of your worshippers within 120 feet prayed for a miracle from you, spending at least one action to do so and requesting specific aid. and you spend 3 actions to basically duplicate like almost any effect to do the miracle that they asked for.
Awesome. Oh, and I see the other ones here are like the 20 in the virtues paragon.
I am invincible! Whenever you would be affected by a hostile effect that doesn't come from another deity or an artifact reaction, you're not. You're a demigod, one so powerful and brave you're verging toward true divinity. So is it any wonder mere mortals can't harm you? You're temporarily immune to the triggering effect for 1 round. This completely protects you for the triggering effect for 1 round, but doesn't protect anyone else.
Mm-hmm. It's not we're all invincible, it's I am invincible.
I am invincible. Incarnate Avatar, which is not one of the ones that is a capstone for one of the virtues, is a once per day you turn into an avatar of yourself. Work with your GM to design your avatar. Limited Omniscience is the innovation 20, where you are permanently quickened to recall knowledge, and your checks to recall knowledge are no longer secret.
Oh, so you know when you fail?
Yes, you know if it's like, well, I remembered this thing, but I know that it's wrong. I know it's not right. Perfect Trickster is a once per hour reaction when you use stealth to hide and become hidden that will allow you to just sort of completely become invisible, and even like revealing light won't reveal you. Preventative Insight is a 20th for sagacity, where when you're about to make a major blunder, that basically anything that would lead to a bad outcome for like augury, and the GM would say bad for that, you have a gut feeling that something is off. This doesn't tell you why something feels wrong.
Oh, so it doesn't protect you against every hypothetically bad decision that will come with conversations. So you can't just cheese it out to
you
like...
can't be like, what if I did this? You have to actually be about to do it
thing,
for
and then
real.
It's like,
Or you spend 1 minute like imagining doing it really strongly, then you can get the answer. But if you're just like, we could do one of these 2,000 things, and you just name them, you don't get like the information on all of those.
Yes.
And then Recall the Slain is Compassion 20, where you just bring everybody back with Revival spell. You can't give it through Answer Prayer, even though it technically is a spell that is granted by a boon. It's one of the few you can't have somebody else cast. You have to do it yourself. The power is too great. So yeah, that's basically Demigod. So Kojo wonders, you can't self-cleric, but you can self-champion or exemplar. So yes, you can self-champion or potentially exemplar with your GM's permission. You can be a champion of your ideals, but you can't be a cleric of yourself because you are yourself.
Yeah. Because the idea is that cleric power from the class always comes from an external source.
100%.
Oh, I see. You can play demigod to figure out how tough it is to have worshippers. Mortals are the worst.
They ask for so much.
Yep.
They're always constantly telling me, no, oh, great one, don't take this divine spell with that take an arcane spell.
But I want to take this divine spell.
But I'm a demigod. Taking the divine spell matches my theme.
Yeah.
I'm a demigod of healing. I want to take heal. It's like, no, take soothe. It's like, why? I don't want to cast soothe. I'd rather cast heal.
Yeah.
So it's also out for 5e D&D. So you can play a D&D demigod as well. Some of those specifics were specific information was there for Pathfinder, but the D&D version works pretty much exactly the same. Just plug in D&D versions of things. There is obviously no exemplar, right? There's paladin instead of champion. And there's not a leadership system in D&D, but there's another way to do it with like reputation and things like that, except for instead of having reputation with a pre-existing sort of organization, you're building it up from scratch. So an oracle or witch empowered by yourself would be a bit weird. It could be weird, for sure. The witch's patron is already kind of mysterious, so I think that you wouldn't know for sure if it was yourself. Which
I feel like it would be kind of like with a witch, it might be like a future incarnation of yourself reaching back into the past to something, or like some weird...
For an oracle, I could see it as like, because you flew too close to the sun, right? Like, the demigod, like, Phaeton was Helios' son. And, he wanted to, He wanted to drive the chariot like that, but much like Icarus with his wings of wax, Phaeton just didn't do it right, and he died. So I could see a situation where as a demigod, you reached for too much power, and that's why you got this Oracle curse. And I could see that as a possibility, at least.
Yeah, so you've had contact with a greater divine force.
And Rohit points out, which is...
And maybe, like, some parts of yourself peeled off, and that's part of what you're connected to.
Rohit points out, which is correct, that if you really want your patron to sort of be yourself and that you're usurping some kind of power from it, then Seneschal Witch archetype is that's what it is. So, yes, you could definitely do that and be a Seneschal Witch and be like, that's how I'm doing it, is with my Seneschal Witch shenanigans. So, yeah, that is the Battlezoo Demigod Ancestry. I will put a link for it again. It's free, so you can just get it. It is a long but free PDF. It is 27 pages long.
And how many pages if you don't count the ads?
If you don't count the ads, it's like 19 pages, I think. Because there's... Yeah, it's somewhere around 19 or 20. No, more than that, because I was also taking out the Orc license, which is not an ad, and the cover. So it's somewhere 20 or 21. So yeah, that's a lot of content. It's a serious content to play a demigod in your game. You can add that to dungeons, fusion characters where you team up with another player to play the same character, and other worlders where you play yourself reincarnated in a fantasy world.
What are you going to do next year?
Not sure yet. We'll have to find out.
Well, because you've already done where do we escalate from here to...
I don't know. Once you're a god, like, you've gone pretty far.
This is going to be like those conversations about Pathfinder Society where, like, we went to the moon. It's like we went to outer space and we punched
back in
gods and
time.
we went back in time. What are we going to do now?
Yep.
No,
you know, at that point, the Grand Lodge hadn't been attacked for
a few
3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, it was due another attack. So, yeah, anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and give XP to our live viewers here.
We do not need a vote because this is like a sort of interrupting episode. So when we go back to our regular scheduled episodes, we will have our regularly scheduled votes. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy our content. We'll catch you on Saturday for our next episode, or Tuesday, or, whenever you want to show up. Take care, everyone, and